How's it feel to be receiving the Variety Artisan Award here at the Film Festival?
Very special, and I've never been here to Santa Barbara properly, so beautiful
welcome.
town. I just wandered around. It's fantastic looking.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
We're glad you're here finally. Hope you'll come back.
I hope so.
Can you talk about what you thought when you first spoke to Guillermo about The Shape of Water, when he first told you the concept?
I thought, how are you ever going to market that? It was the strangest concept. It was a little bit, this was summer of 2015, so it developed a little bit more over the year before we started shooting, but it was more or less the same principle. And like, two people don't talk, one of them being a fisherman, but in the words in the script, it was very visually eloquently detailed, and like, wow, you could, just reading it, you had your imagination would start whirring, and Guillermo then would bring influences to you, and it's like, you knew it was a great movie to work on. I mean, it was just a very strange one.
How'd you go about crafting that fairy tale world in the 1960s?
Well, actually, the first thing we did was we wanted to ground it in the 60s, so we actually did proper research to set the tone, and then, as it's a fairy tale and it's a Guillermo del Toro visual feast, we pushed it and amped it up a little bit there. But we really wanted to start with the proper period. Otherwise, I think it would have, if we just kind of winged it without that, I don't think it would have been as successful. I think you had to ground it properly and then push the fantasy after that.
Build on there.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you talk about the symbolism of the architecture and the color of the production and what that meant to the film?
Yes, there's two main types of architecture in the film. Sally and Sally and Richard Jenkins' characters' apartments were in this older world, in theory above the movie theater. It was a late Victorian kind of architecture. It had warmer hues and curves and everything with the arched windows, and I want to really contrast that with the sort of brutalist concrete architecture of Strickland's or Michael Shannon's character, with hard edges, hard materials, and pretty stark. And we elevated his office looking over everyone, because he kind of looked down on everyone and everything like that. So it was a real conscious play to go back and forth to those two different worlds. We wanted the romanticism, we wanted that romantic feeling for when the asset, or Doug Jones's fishman, comes back into Sally's apartment, and we wanted to introduce early elements of aquatones and fish scales in the wallpaper and things like that, just to, subtle things to her apartment was kind of shaped by water as well. So
the color palettes between Sally and Richard's apartments were very different.
Yeah, that was, Guillermo's very color-centric, and the irony is, this movie, when I originally heard about it, it was potentially going to be black and white, so I was a bit terrified by that, because, that's a good thing to, it's a good tool we have to work with. But as you can see in the final movie, color is very important. Sally's color was always meant to be in the aquatic tones. We always wanted to keep her in that world of water, subtly in the world of water. When the opening sequence, when you go in, it is underwater in her dream sequence. But when that fell away, we still wanted to maintain that feel, with the flickering water. I mean, instead of the flickering water coming from the ceiling, it was flickering movie light coming from the floor. And then the tone of the color of the walls and everything were all in that bluish aqua tones. And then Dan Louston, the DP, beautiful DP, well, he did a great job lighting it. He kept the light colors in the steel blue colors. And then we went across the hall into Richard Jenkins, or Giles's character. Guillermo always wanted to keep that in the warm mustards and golds and those kind of hues. And then Dan as well also lit it more like Magic Hour, so it was always a much warmer light. And then as the love story progressed, we introduced a little bit of red. She was coveting these red shoes. There's little hints of red for when the asset, or Doug Jones's fishman, comes into her apartment. And then Dan slowly, as the love interest progressed, warmed up the lighting color. I mean, obviously the color of the apartment stayed the same, but he slowly warmed it up. It was a conscious decision to do that. And the other empathetic characters like Zelda and ironically Michael Stuhlbarg's character, the Russian, he was an empathetic character in the end, and that whole world was also in the sort of warm hues. That was important. And then of course that sort of teal green, the color of the future, was written in the script. That was the only color that really permeated through the concrete facility, which was Michael Shannon's world.
Well, it was a visual gift, a feast for all of us. What's next for you?
Well, I mean, the award stuff is pretty exciting, I have to admit. Hopefully something, somewhat close to as interesting as that movie, because that's a pretty special one to have been part of. Feel very lucky that I was able to be part of shaping that world.
And we, the audience, are very grateful to you.
Thank you very much.
Because it was a visual feast.
Nice.
Thank
That's
you
what we want.
so much.
Okay.
And congratulations on tonight.
Great. Thank you.